Jess Stearn thinks that everybody has a soulmate. It's just you got to find that person. There are a couple of different kinds of soulmates. And a soulmate is a person we were with in the last life.
In the last life.
Now, you're smiling, but you're serious, aren't you?
I'm serious.
Have you found yours?
I found 2 of them.
Oh, well. So you can have more than one soulmate?
Oh, yeah, there's 3 different kinds.
Yeah, tell me the different kinds.
Well, one is a karmic soulmate, and I think we've all had that. That's the type of soulmate where we have to work things out, where we carried over our karma from a previous existence. And that's the one that's tough because we have so much to work out that often we don't make it.
So, in other words, this is a person that you appear not to be able to live without, but you're always fighting with.
Exactly. That's what they call the antagonistic attraction.
Okay, how many here have a soulmate? Well, no, that's none of our business. All right, give us the other one.
All right, then there's the companion type of soulmate, the person you're tied in together with for a specific purpose or project. For instance, there may be a man who needs that particular woman, or a woman that needs that particular man because they're engaged in a certain type of work, or their life's work, an important work, you know, like your work may be, or my work may be to me. And that person arrives at that particular time. And then we're ready for them, and they help us do what we have to do, and then they may go on.
Okay.
But meanwhile, we've learned some lessons. We've learned a certain amount of growth. We've learned something about ourselves and about the past, you know.
All right. Those are
2.
Yeah.
Now the third, which is the kind we'd all like to find, and so rarely do, as I mentioned that Shirley MacLaine was in my book, that she says she'd never found her soulmate. Well, she meant, just as I mean, that we've never found that twin flame, that perfect counterpart, the one that just blends perfectly with us.
This audience has found that person. What? Anybody found the person? Yeah? Did you? Come on. Did you bring her with you? You're serious, huh?
Yeah, we're still married after all this time. See, 40, no, it's been 2 years. We've been together for 4 years and married at 2 years.
Do you buy the
Reincarnation? No, not at all.
Do you think there is such a thing as a soulmate? And that there's some sort of extraterrestrial reason for the attraction that you two... One of the points he makes is that soulmates are people who, when they first meet, there's something something familiar going on immediately.
I think that's maybe a sexual attraction to looks. You have to get to know the person to really get to understand them. I don't believe there's no reincarnation. I think once this is over, it's over.
I think it's possible, reincarnation. I think my parents had are soulmates. They have a very good relationship, and they instantly knew.
Does he believe in reincarnation to Peter Proud, the movie?
Not quite like Peter Proud, I don't think, but yes, he believes in reincarnation.
You believe in the same concept?
Sure, certainly.
This is Dick Sutphen, who is a reincarnation trainer. What do you do? You hypnotize me?
Yeah, I would hypnotize you in a training. I write about it.
And then what is the idea? Is that the hypnosis helps me think about who I might have known in my other lives? Is that it?
Well, we could take you back, Phil, into a prior lifetime and explore this through hypnosis. Yes, I don't know exactly what reincarnation is, but I do know that everybody out here in this audience, everybody who's watching us, has memories of other lifetimes, and these memories appear to be affecting us. That I know is a fact. I think we could discuss all day the way reincarnation works, and maybe we would never agree.
You pronounce your name Sevilla?
Sevilla.
Sevilla. Sevilla and Burl Schilling join us. They are a soulmate couple, and they are serious about it. You're from Van Nuys, California. How long have you been together?
About close to 3 years.
And when you first met, you had this immediate, familiarity? Tell me about that.
Yes. I had never felt so immediately at home with the person. And it's like right from the start, there was no small talk. We really opened up talking about our spiritual beliefs, etc.
Yeah. When did you know him before?
I don't have the dates, but I do have about, at least 3 past life experiences.
How long ago? Do you have any details of those experiences?
Well, one of the most interesting to me, and of course this isn't proven, but one of my regressions showed that I was possibly somebody in his life, this life, but my past life.
I don't get it.
Well, Burl's older than I am, right?
How much older?
Almost 30 years. And the experience of my regression was that I was somebody in his early life as this man here. But I as Savilla, hadn't been born yet, you see. It was a previous life for me.
So he knew you before you were born?
Yes.
Oh, I understand that.
Forever.
Burl, you want to help us out here?
Well, I will. When I was a youngster, like all school kids, I had a girlfriend.
Yeah.
And she left California. I left for California. I was raised in Chicago, and I never heard from her after that. Didn't know what happened to her. Well, when Savilla and I met, Savilla began to describe this girl, including her name, almost her complete name. She described the events around the neighborhood I lived in, or we lived in.
All right, Burl. Now, who then? I'm trying to figure this out. Was that first girlfriend then really Savilla?
Well, I feel that perhaps that girl made her transition or passed away or something, and her soul became Savilla when Savilla was born.
Okay. Now look who's here. You recognize Karen and John Erickson, both of whom are actors living in Studio City, California, and we've seen and enjoyed your work often on the small and the big screen, and you are soulmates. True?
Right. Yes.
How do you know that, John?
Well, that young man over there said he recognized immediately. Well, that happened with us. I saw her actually met her in heaven. We were flying to a destination. So,
well, no, wait a minute.
No.
Before you call out, they were in an airplane.
It's just a little levity.
Yeah.
All right, we were in an airplane, and I saw her, and immediately, for the split second, I said, I know her. And then I dispensed with it, because I said to myself, I really just want to know her, because she looks so nice and so beautiful. And I did get to know her, and then as I got more and more acquainted with her, I realized I did know her. I knew how she thought, I knew how the things she liked in life, and the things we did together we were compatible in, and then thinking back on it a few years later, I said, that instant I knew. Why didn't I go with it and say that was it? I had to try to reacquaint myself with her, in other words.
What was the distance then, the time from this first recognition to the time that you actually got to know each other well?
Oh, I'd say...
6 months.
About 6 minutes?
6
months.
No,
No, 6 months.
6
6 months.
6 months.
All right. Now, do you buy this? Do you think you were together in another life?
Oh, yes,
When?
definitely.
When?
Well, we were regret.
Yeah. So give us one.
All right, one was, the most interesting to me was in the day of the caveman.
Yeah.
We were back there with, the country was very desolate. It was volcanic country.
Yeah.
It was dry. It was bleak. And we were actually like the only ones.
The two of you, huh?
The two of us.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're the dinosaurs.
No, because there was there was a tremendous upheaval of the earth. And
Now, you're laughing. He believes this. Now, and who's to disprove this?
No, it's not.
What's the
We're
matter?
not
no, we weren't
Adam
Adam and Eve.
No,
No.
no.
I don't know what she thinks about it. She looks as if she doesn't believe what he's saying, and she's supposed to be the soulmate.
Don't you believe it?
Honey, that's not it. You picked the funny one, though.
All right, give us another one. Give us another one, Karen.
Well, it's just that the one he picked I happen to find very funny.
Yes, we
You
have
know, I
strange
mean, he
names.
asked me what my name, I asked him what my name was back there, and he says GNU or something. I mean, that's really ugly.
Right. Well, give us another one. Give us another one.
Okay, well, I had one that John does not remember, and I'm not even sure it was John, to tell you the truth, except it looked like him from the back. The build, the sense, the feeling was him.
When?
It was in about the 14th century, and it was in Spain. And it was very, it's the only thing that everyone else up here is really, really into reincarnation, and I'm just finding my way. I think it's more than a possibility. I mean, I think it's a definite probability, but I'm still, the thing that convinced me was an incident that happened to me, sort of a spontaneous regression, and it was so real. It was so alive, so filled with detail. I couldn't possibly have made it up. It happened very quickly. Everything, the emotion was there. I ended up crying. I was sweating. I was
Can you give us some
very
details
distraught.
of the incident, Karen? I mean, what time?
The whole story? It's kind of long.
No, it's only an hour show. But just
not that long.
What was it? Were you in a castle? Was it the 14th century? What?
Okay, it was around the 14th century. I can't be specific. It was marble. I think it probably was something like a castle. Obviously, I was someone who had a great deal of money. I was wearing a lot of expensive jewels, a beautiful gown, and I'm running through mud, and I'm very frightened. And I run through this, and well, there's more detail than that. I even pictured in great detail the little bag I was carrying.
Right.
And I'm in terror, and I'm running up some stairs, and I see the narrow, winding stairs up a back door, so that trying to get in so that no one will see me. I run down a hall, and I'm grabbed from behind by someone that I never saw, a man who stabs me in the stomach. And then someone grabs him, and I guess he's killed. I don't know whether that really happened or not.
Right.
And apparently the wound was fatal. I'm dragged inside a room, and the person who's doing it seems to be John, although I never saw his
doing
face
what? Who's
specifically.
not the assailant?
No, not
trying
the
to save
assailant.
you.
The one who's trying to save me. The person I was going to meet.
Right.
The result is I was killed. I was pregnant. The baby was killed. And it really upsets me now.
But you really feel that it was John who made the attempt to rescue them.
I think I was going there to meet him, and I have a feeling when the whole thing was fleshed out, there was more to it, that I was probably married to someone else who was very high up, maybe royalty or something like that, and we were going to run away together, and he had to leave, and I died, and it was awful.
I think I'm probably being a pessimist, but this whole thing sounds like you saw it in a movie.
No,
or
I
on
didn't
TV.
see it in a
It might
movie.
make a good movie, but it sounds like it's so detailed.
I probably would make a very cliche movie. I think they've had that movie before, but I never saw it.
On that very note, I'm curious as to how do you know whether these are remembrance from a different life or if they are images that you've absorbed through media or books or something of that type?
I don't know. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I would judge by the results. I would judge by, the way I would use this knowledge would be more in a therapeutic sense. And I know that the past lives that you will tap in upon will usually be affecting you in some way. So if by exploring them, if by processing through them you can change something in your current life, then there's real value. And this is what I found in work. I'll train a lot of psychiatrists, psychologists now, who are also using these techniques very effectively as past life therapy.
Well, wait a minute. That's not the point. What? No, I see her point. She thinks that you're making too much of what might have been a memory trace as a result of a real-life experience, like seeing a movie or...
That can be recalled under hypnosis. For example, I could have read something about marble walls or seen it on TV, and when you're bringing this out, how do you know that that isn't an accumulation from this intellect as opposed to a former life? I don't believe in former lives.
Okay, there's going to be no way that you can absolutely prove, of course, there's no way we'll ever prove reincarnation, no matter what the National Enquirer says on the headlines. But I would judge by the effect. If you can assist someone therapeutically through this awareness, which can be done, which more and more professionals are doing, then there's a value. Now, we could get into a very long and esoteric discussion, which I'm not going to try to do.
Let me get some of these folks in out here.
Okay.
I think they're all dreaming. Because I can go to sleep, I can go to sleep at night, and I can dream. Hey, I'd love to live back in the 18th century, but that doesn't mean that I have reincarnated.
Does anybody buy this? Yeah.
Sure,
Okay, I have had the experience of meeting someone and having instant rapport, okay? I've had the experience of almost a deja vu kind of thing. I can describe a scene or a room that I've never been in. This isn't frequent, but I'm saying it has occurred. But I have never gone up to a stranger and said, "Oh, John, 14th century Spain, right?" You know,
I didn't do that either.
And he didn't either.
How are you making this leap?
Well,
How are you doing this?
No, I
What
didn't
this
do-
regression thing you're talking
I didn't
about?
do that.
You were here before.
Yes, I do.
Do you have any idea how, in what form, what were you?
No, I don't know. I don't know how to investigate further and find that out. I don't even know if I want to know. I guess I'm happy just to know that possibly I have within my mind experiences in the past certain things that enable me to have a certain perspective on situations that no one else could have.
Yeah.
It's part of what makes me unique.
Yeah.
But as far as where I lived and what I did, I don't know, number one, if it's important to know that, and number two, how do you even determine it?
Well,
If you
what
can't
if it could
produce
help you? What if it could help you in some way? What if there's something in your life that is not working, and by exploring the past, it could be of value? I think you might look upon it differently at that point. I have found that about 45% of the time when someone has a problem, it will come from a past life opposed to a current life. So if by exploring the past you could serve yourself, you might view it differently.
Okay, my question is, you said all these things took place. Did it just take place a matter of minutes, days, or did you sit down and just think it all, everything that took place?
Well, the hypnotic session compresses time.
Yes, minutes.
Yeah, this just happened so fast I couldn't even think about it. It was just there.
Well, I can't understand what's so draining about finding somebody you love and having a romance and thinking you knew them before and that you recognize them at sight, and a little love and romance comes into your life, perhaps passed on by the Creator who made us this way. What is so wonderful about any of these lives here now that end immediately, at any time, and nothing goes on before it, nothing comes on after it?
You think
and
that's
usually
absurd?
Nothing goes on while they're here.
So, don't we improve as we go around? I mean, you get better,
that's
don't
the
you?
whole part of the process, is improvement. Now, if these people are against improvement, they're sitting in the right place at the right time.
Over here.
I was wondering if you come into one life as a man, if you come back into another life, is it possible to come back as a woman?
Either.
I don't really have an opinion. I want to learn.
My experience in I've worked with about 40,000 people in seminars, and we seem to have a predominant pattern. But we will come back. We will have to experience both sides.
I think I've been here before.
Good.
I'll tell you, I keep going like this. We'll be back in just a moment.
Many years ago, well, for the last 30 years, I thought I lived in Italy, and I really thought I'd come back. And we were driving down the north side, and the Tower of Pisa, the copy. And I realized...
I know what you're talking about around the country. We have our own Leaning Tower of Pisa here in Chicago. It's obviously a building constructed as a replica. And so you're saying that as a child you noticed that, and then later on you superimposed the notion that you were once in Italy.
Yes, that's what happened.
You're saying what this woman's saying, that all these mysterious feelings we have might have some here and now explanation.
Some of them. Also, it can be also, reincarnation could be true too.
But what if you have the feeling that you've been here and you haven't had the experience of traveling to a place, and it comes back to you often, let's say once a month or once or twice a year, that you've been a certain kind of person?
In other words, you're having a reoccurring feeling or impression, a déjà vu feeling. Well, I think maybe it's your subconscious mind attempting to communicate with you in some way. We all have clues as to our past lives. You can start to look at your affinities and start to look at your aversions. And this is a good beginning.
I don't think it needs to be that specific, though. Take, for instance, people who seem to walk through life with so much ease, and then other people seem to stumble through. Maybe the people who do things easily have done them before, and that's why it's so easy.
Well, remember, there's something very important here. We're talking about karma and reincarnation. The two are like this. One does not work without the other. Actually, it's the only explanation for the inequality and injustice that we all see around us at all times. Christianity certainly can't explain it. this is either a random universe and there's no meaning to this life, or there is meaning. And if there's meaning, if there's any kind of a plan, there has to be justice. And the only way to explain it would be with karma.
So that if a child dies, for example, reincarnation would offer the possible theory that at a later life, the child would return, the soul of that child would return, and enjoy a life of good health and pleasure and...
Not quite. It would be a karmic situation, Phil, even on the death. It would have to be a karmic situation in regard to the parents. The parents think of the terrible experience that they would go through because of losing the child. So they're having to learn something by it. The child, it could be some form of karmic self-punishment for the child, because the child wanted to have a beautiful life, came in, let's say, with nice circumstances and so on, but had to check out early. That could be karmic, too. Jeff. Everything would have to be karma or nothing is karma.
You can take a person like Mozart, whom we're all familiar with his life. At 5, he was composing concerts. Where did that come out of? It didn't come out of his genes. It came out of something that he remembered from the past. Joseph Hoffman was playing his music at the age of 3. Where did that come from?
No, I feel like I found my soulmate, and what I was wondering is there any way for you to hypnotize me to see if I've met this person before?
Definitely.
I mean, would you be able to do it in a few minutes, or is this taking a long time?
Well,
I'd like to do it now if you could.
Not on the show, because they would bust us, because we would hypnotize all the millions of people who are watching at the same time.
But you're saying that you could...
Definitely. Absolutely.
And it's very easy.
It's very easy. You can do it yourself. Jess has written in his book about how to do it. He's used some of the techniques that I work with in seminars, and we talked about it, and he relates them.
Yeah. Now, the question I have is, when you hypnotize and you do this under sleep, does reincarnation and, I don't know if you've ever heard of body travel. Body travel could you be body traveling instead of being reincarnated?
Well, you're not going to be astral projecting. That's something totally different. Reincarnation is an explanation for the way everything is. Your life right now, everything in your life, your body, your success, your relationships, your lack of relationships, your parents, everything in your life would be karmic. And it is a result, it's your choice. You set it up to be experiencing exactly what you're experiencing. Karma is total self-responsibility.
They don't... Well, Mr. Stearn explained karma right at the beginning of the program. Do you want to do that again?
All right, it's cause and effect. It would say that if you want to get back to the biblical sense, it's as you sow, so shall you reap. Everything must be balanced. Everything that you do, every thought you think is going to have a repercussion. Everything behind that thought or deed, your desire, your intent, your motive behind everything you do will result in an effect. And if you don't balance it in this life, you'll balance it in the next life. So we could go to Gibran. Gibran says the murdered is as guilty as the murderer. That would say even the person, McDonald's, where they came in with the guns and they killed 23 innocent people, supposedly, that would be karmic balance, according to the belief system of those of us up here.
Yeah, but that's an offensive thesis to most people. What you're doing is, this is blaming the victim.
You're justifying it, but what you're doing is you're explaining inequality, Phil, because certainly Christianity can't explain that kind of inequality. Judaism can't explain it. The only explanation for justice that I can perceive of in all my study of philosophy is karma. It explains absolutely everything that every one of us are going through.
Hold on just a moment. You don't have a mic. Yeah.
No, maybe he was just, explaining all this. But are you saying that we always are and always will be? I mean, don't some come back?
That you are eternal. Yes, I certainly am.
And the same amount of people are just revolving around all the time?
Well, we would continue to come back until we're spiritually evolving.
But there are new
all you gentlemen are talking about the past, but I'm going to bring something up real quick about the future. Yeah. My son had a premonition before the Pope was shot. He come to my wife and I, 2 o'clock in the morning. He said, Christ came to me with his arms outstretched. He said, Tim, I love you. He had blood on that side and his cap. 6 days later, the Pope was shot. Now explain that.
Well, he was perceiving something he was perceiving a predestined event. That event was already set into motion. The people who were going to do the assassinate him, or attempt to, they were already thinking in terms of it. It was already something that circumstances had set into effect. And he simply perceived it. It was precognitive.
Over here.
If you're supposed to improve with every life, why would you go back to something that happened in the past rather than maybe meeting someone that you never met in a past life, which could be even better?
No, that happens as well.
Sure.
I mean, there's nothing restrictive about the whole program. I mean, there are billions of souls out there. That happens as well. You meet new people and a new experience, and you go on with them. You had to meet somebody new at one time sometime. I mean, it all started from scratch.
I want to ask, at the Judgment Day, if we're all going to be reunited with our body, there'll be a shortage of souls.
Well, this isn't... Wait a second.
Maybe Judgment Day isn't quite what some people would have us believe.
And we'll be back in just a moment. Jess Stearn's book is titled Soulmates, Perfect Partners, Past, Present, and Beyond. Everybody's got one, huh?
Everybody has one, yeah.
Right, but you don't always meet them.
Well, you'll have met them from the past. You may not meet one in this existence, but I think practically everybody here feels they've met their karmic soulmate where they're having difficulties. And, of course, it's the twin flame that most people want, the twin soul, the person that's the exact counterpart who thinks as they do, who knows what they're thinking, who believes what they believe, who's a constant support.
What if you find one when you already have one and you decide, oh, this one's for me?
You want to talk about that, John?
Yes, well, that can happen. You will meet someone, you think they are perfect, and you get along fine, and there are certain things that are very helpful to you in your life, things that you've been trying to overcome, and you find they fill that void, and you learn from them, and they from you. And then all of a sudden, that's it. And you say, well, what else is there? And suddenly you realize, this person isn't right for me. There are other things I have to know, and this isn't working right now.
But you met your soulmate when you were married.
Yes, right.
Well, that's what she's talking.
But he was almost
at the time, my marriage was not going very well.
It's not.
Right.
No, and now when
I don't want. I mean, that's
when I met my first wife, it was also delightful and wonderful. We had marvelous times.
But I don't think you should let your wife out of the house under this. She's
liable to meet another soulmate.
I mean, there she is on the bus, and whammo, here comes soulmate.
That's true.
Right.
Well, then that could happen. Then that would be, for instance, a lesson that I would have to learn to deal with something like that.
I have my husband here. Our marriage is about as perfect as it can be, but it hasn't always been this way. We had to learn to live together. Isn't that right?
I think that's normal. There's an adjustment period. Oh, I don't know how many years. Billy Graham says it took him 5 years, and he's a pretty good fella. I'm a better fella. It only took me 3 years.
Well, that's part of the learning process.
But we learned it in this life. We didn't learn it in any life before that. When children come into the world...
When children what?
When children come into the world, they all have different abilities. I taught school for 40 years, and I can tell you that children have many, many different abilities. This is their natural abilities. This is what comes to them through their genes.
Yeah.
Maybe
you say
genes
more. I
don't
could
have
talk
anything
all
to
hours.
do with
I don't
it.
want you. I'm sure you don't want me to.
You're doing real well. And I'm glad you joined us, and you answered the question correctly. So.
I taught him to answer correctly.
Yeah.
Mr. Stearn, are we only likely to meet someone with whom we've had an intense feeling of love or hatred in the past, or might we recognize someone with whom we've only had a casual relationship?
Well, both are true, and I would say that you can meet somebody, and as this lady pointed out, it's a learning process. She thinks that she did it all in this particular lifetime, and that's true. The only life that counts is the one you're living now, because this is the time you build up your karma. This is the time you've learned. He's learned to be go along with her.
I'd like to ask Dick, can you tell us if we all have soulmates, who is our creator? Who would be our creator then?
Well, I perceive God, that you are God, that I am God, that God is an energy gestalt and we are all part of God. And this is a way to procreate and to expand what we might call the God energy. This is probably a pretty generally accepted metaphysical belief. It becomes a little too complicated to go into beyond that, but I write about it beyond that.
I'm not a student of reincarnation, but I'd like to know how you explain the population explosion. You know,
what you're asking is that there's more people now living on the earth than the sum total of all the people who have ever lived, so there's not enough bodies to go around, right? Right, okay. That's what every talk show host hits me with usually first.
Those are the smart talk show hosts.
Yeah. I would respond to that. There again, it can become very complicated. I don't think that when you can answer that by saying, well, we're not looking at Atlantis and Lemuria and all of the other continents and civilizations that have existed. Personally, I feel that we have simultaneous multiple incarnation explains it. It's too complicated to go into, but there are more than your soul may be inhabiting more than one body. And my evidence, and as a result of a lot of research, is that this is reality, that we're exploring more than one physical exploration at the same time. So there's only about a small number of people on the earth by comparison to what it looks like.
My feeling is that the Creator can do anything he likes. He created this thing in 7 days. He created us the way we are. If he wanted to create 1 billion souls to make this come through, or 10 billion souls, he has no trouble with that at all.
I'd like to know when you stop searching for your soulmate.
When you find it. When you find it.
And how do we know?
Here's how you know. There's instant, this is the soulmate definition, there's instant recognition of feeling that you knew each other before. And those that don't have that, whether it's a karmic relation, a companion, or a twin flame, have not met their soulmate.
Sevilla, did you want in on this?
Well, I was basically agreeing with Jess that God is all-powerful. He could create new souls anytime.
Yeah. But you knew he was your soulmate when you met Burl.
Yes.
It's more than recognition. It's recognition through feeling, not just seeing. You feel it, and you know that regardless what that other person is, you do not want to change. I wouldn't change Sevilla for the world, and she has no idea of changing me. And we have overcome all the barriers, age barrier, the professional ethics that I had when I met her, and that no way was I going to have a relationship.
She came to you for you're a hypnotist, are you?
I was a hypnotherapist.
And she a hypnotherapist, and she wanted to correct a smoking problem.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Her mother thinks that Burl hypnotized her.
Not anymore.
Oh, she's accepted Burl, has she?
Oh, yes,
That's the
very
other
much
fact.
so.
When everybody in her family has accepted me, all of my family has accepted her, and she is younger than my youngest child.
Burl
grandchildren now.
Burl consulted with his students, and he asked them about it, and he said he was in love, but he was concerning his position with her and also the difference in age. And they were younger than even Sevilla, and they said, go for it. And he went for it.
Mm-hmm.
But the feeling with Burl is a feeling that's unique for me in my experience, is a lack of separateness. It's a real feeling of oneness that I had never felt to that extent before meeting Burl.
And you're convinced, too, that that's the result of an acquaintance that you enjoyed with him in another life?
Not an acquaintance. I really believe that the essence of our soul is love, and that love brings us together again and again. To me, it's the most powerful force in the universe, and it draws us together because...
yeah, but everybody says that, and then, a year later, they're throwing plates at each other.
Not everybody.
Well, perhaps it's not the kind of love that's on a spiritual level. I think a lot of people really think that love comes out of the emotions, and I don't believe it does. I think it's much deeper than that.
And we'll be back in just a moment.
Yes, why wouldn't all this be possible? We tend to think in terms of what we can see and hear and feel, but there's so much more that we can't. And yes, I do believe that what you're saying is possible. Yes, and I feel my husband was a karmic antagonist in Rome many, many years ago. I really feel I'm reliving something that went on between us many...
Yeah, but it sounds to me like he came back as a karmic antagonist.
Yes.
And the next like he's going to be, what is this?
You know why?
I hope
some antagonistic fellow.
I hope I learn this time more.
You know why that happens, Phil? Why? That's because she had, in the past life, has not learned to cope with a certain situation and has always tried to back away from it.
And so she's improving her ability then, is that it?
That is correct,
Right.
by practice over and over again till she no longer is intimidated by it.
Right.
Now, some people were asking about the soul. Why are there so many people?
Yeah.
My belief is, and this is all hypothesis, again, we're all just what we only believe, and it's no proof to it, is that the soul emanates from one universal soul, which knows all and is all. And each one of us is an expression of that soul. This is why so many people sometimes can invent the same thing at the same time at the other end of the earth, or write the same script suddenly it's there, because they're all tapping into this one soul. And it's all an expression of the great universal center or universal life in this world.
I have a different question. As a Christian, I believe that God reveals truth through the Bible. I'm wondering if any of you have found any kind of biblical support for the idea of reincarnation.
Yes. Well, of course, you know, Paul made his famous quotation speaking of Jesus. And he said, if one man lives again, then all men live again. And of course, we all believe, who believe in Christianity, that Christ has lived again.
And also...
speaking, the apostles came to Jesus, and they said to him, who do men... And he said, who do men say I was before? And he said that they say that some of them say that you were this, and you were one of the old prophets like Elijah. And he said, no, that wasn't I, that was John. Well, they were obviously speaking of previous lives.
And also, Jesus said, there is only one life. And to me, that means only one life. We are all one.
I'd like to ask whether or not any of you believe in reincarnation from animals, and if so, whether or not any of you have any of those experiences.
I've never found any evidence of transmigration in all the people I've worked with, no.
I think that, for instance, that is transmigration. What we're talking about is the human soul, and God said in the Bible, we're speaking of the Bible, that he made man different in his own image. And so he separated us from the rest of the animals.
This is all very abstract, and I know a lot of people are having trouble grasping it. I have a question. What do you think of the theory of the human mind has not been fully explored? How about the hereditary factor in the human mind? Since you inherit blue eyes, curly hair, etc. Why can't you inherit memory genes, etc.?
Well, because they don't track back too often. You might, if I were to regress you right now, you might very well go back to a lifetime as a black man living in Africa, and that we know that's not a genetic lineage.
No, I understand, but you do inherit memory genes, or at least the language is probably not precise. For example, we are born knowing how to suckle.
Yeah.
Now, she's saying if we're born with that innate skill, which could be a memory that we bring with us. What else do we bring? Isn't that your question?
Well, I've been trying to say that for an hour, but I haven't been able to get it in. But there's also, as I point out in my book, there's a strong genetic factor, which is something that Taylor Caldwell believed in. And she believed that her gift of remembering 2,000 years ago or 3,000 years ago was a genetic quality, just like you're talking about how we're born to suckle. How about the animals who learn to swim and different things that we have? We learn to breathe, our hearts work. All this has been a part of a genetic learning process. So there is that other part. It isn't all reincarnation. There is a genetic factor, which I mentioned in Soulmates, and
the two don't have to negate each other necessarily. It's all possible.
They're not opposed to each other, but there is that genetic factor.
Karma is an Indian word. It's a Sanskrit word. It's derived from that. I have a question for both the extreme people.
Both extreme people.
Is your philosophy based on Hindu philosophy? Because essentially what you're talking about is, Hindu philosophy talks about that. Are you Hindu?
No, it's Eastern philosophy, and reincarnation, you have to be aware, is the belief of 2/3 of the world. And in fact, the latest Gallup poll says that 1 out of every 4 Americans now believes in this. It's part of Buddhism and Hinduism. It's part of many, many, many religions, and you don't need a religious base to accept reincarnation.
Well, it was in Christianity, and the Pharisees, an early Judaic tribe, and Paul was supposed to be a Pharisee, they believed in reincarnation, so it did become part, as I understand it, of early Christianity, but the fact...
It was edited out of the Bible, I think.
But the fact remains that people's remembering could be genetic factor as well as reincarnation.
I have memories and dreams of the past, but I don't have any... I have people in my dreams, too, but they seem to be faceless. I can remember buildings, I can remember places, but I do not see anybody. Does that mean...
That means you have boring dreams.
Does that mean I do not have a soulmate or a karmic partner?
No.
But chances are that the dreams of the past are remembrances. They're the subconscious or the unconscious mind releasing memories. If you have a reoccurring dream of one particular past life place, then I would explore it with meditation or self-hypnosis or get someone to direct it.
Premonitions. I have had dreams that very real, and I see them very realistically, that a couple of days later I'll read in the paper, this happened.
Sure.
For example, a boat overturning with a lot of people in it. I saw it in my dream on Lake Erie, and on Lake Erie it happened a couple days later.
Again,
That's
it's
only
like the
one.
gentleman over here who was discussing the experience with his son. It's a predestined event, and you were able to pick up psychically. We all have psychic abilities. We all have a sixth sense. Some of us it's a little more developed than in others. But anyone can learn to do this and become pretty good at it.
Because
it's
it
fearful
happened.
if you view it that way. It doesn't have to be viewed that way, I don't believe. It might have great value. You might be able to mitigate a circumstance, and it could be a warning.
Yeah.
What is the value in what you call regressing, in actually finding out your
Okay,
soul?
let's just say you have a problem. Let's say it's something very simple like a fear of water. If I were to take you back to the cause of your problem, and you see, if you went to a psychiatrist or a psychologist and told them, I have a problem, I'm afraid of water, they would probably work with you to try to find the cause. Now, I contend that in going back to the cause and exploring it and fully understanding it, you can begin to let go of the effect. And so let's say that we went back. I hypnotized you, and I said, we're going back to the cause. I didn't say anything about past lives, just we're going back to the cause of your fear of water. Now, you find yourself drowning in a situation, drowning when you were back working in the Navy in 1812. You were a naval officer, and you drowned. And that's why you fear the water. Now, in experiencing it, you may be able to totally let go of the effect. And this happens all the time.
Yes, but her fear may have to do with a childhood incident, not necessarily a past
very
life.
well. In fact, our own statistics, 55% of the time it is in this life. 45% of the time
in another life.
It goes back to another life.
There's also a lot of theory out there that, for example, our hostility or our disdain for snakes appears to be universal and maybe primal and maybe explained
by past lives.
There's a Darwinian explanation for this.
Sure.
Sociobiologists are telling us that incest taboo is also an innate prohibition. You know, that we actually acquire the hostility or being against any notion of intimacy within a family.
Well,
I don't know whether this helps this conversation or not.
Well, Phil, you know, it does, as a matter of fact, because we all know we meet certain people, and we seem to love them right away and want to embrace them. We meet other people, and the hackles will hair go up on the back of our neck.
And that's because of a bad situation at some other time.
At some other time.
And we'll be back. I got a break. I'm sorry, they're upset. We'll be back in just a moment.
How much would you charge for a session?
For a regression? Well, I don't do it individually. I do it with groups, usually pretty large groups, and I think they'll put our address on. You can write to me. We put out a magazine, and we get all the information.
I've met a guy, and we used to think alike, and, you know, every time I'd say something, he'd think something, vice versa. But the relationship didn't last long, so how would you say that?
Well, it was a learning experience, wasn't it?
Yeah. Let me try. Tell me if this is pretty close. Wait a minute. No. You knew the guy before. And yes, you did. You knew him in another life. And the relationship in the other life was friendly, but not, you know, it wasn't Mr. Right. So your attraction to him is a result of your relationship with the other life, which was not a flaming one then.
Well, I don't know.
I think
$50.
If the relationship was really important, it was probably predestined to happen.
This question to Mr. Stern. You wrote a book, and you're speaking very well about this. Do you have a soulmate?
Presently? No, I came to Chicago looking for one.
I'd like to ask the gentleman, where did he get his training? Does he have any formalized training, or where did you go?
I worked with a lot of different people for my training, and I developed a lot of the techniques. Regressive therapy is pretty new. I developed it in my work, and people have come to me.
It just seems to me if you're going back and finding soulmates that the odds must be astronomical to find each other again, especially now if you're in 14th century Spain and now you've met.
Soulmates, you got one. Find them, her.
There are some untested assumptions here. First of all, that things have to work out, that it has to balance, that there has to be a fair and a justice. And there's something to be said about the genetic and also the collective unconscious that Jungian psychology teaches about.
I agree. Sure. But it's either a random universe where we simply evolved out of the sea and that's all there is to it, or there's a plan.
With a life expectancy of 16.5 years, this is the space vehicle that could transport you into the 21st century.
Give your home a look of elegance with the rich no-sheen finish of True Test Satin Hue Flat Latex, available exclusively at participating True Value hardware stores.